This video is about Python Chapter 3. It's the first video in Chapter 3, so it is Section A. But before we get started in Section A, I want to introduce the chapter a little bit to you. As you notice, the chapter is titled Introducing Lists, which means that it is our first chapter on lists, and there will be another. Lists are a very powerful data type that allows you to do a lot of things, and so there's lots to learn about lists. Last chapter we learned about strings, and strings are nice, but they very quickly become disorganized. So lists are one way that we can start organizing strings and categorizing our data a little bit into lists, and start thinking about some more powerful ways of manipulating data as well. So what is a list? A list is a collection of items in a particular order. You can make a list that includes the letters of the alphabet, the digits from 0 to 9, or the names of all the people in your family. You can put anything you want to into a list, and the items in your list don't have to be related in any particular way. Because a list usually contains more than one element, it's a good idea to make the name of your list plural, such as letters, digits, or names. Here's an example of a list. Notice in Python, you use square brackets to indicate a list. Individual elements in the list are separated by commas. This list contains a series of strings, so they are surrounded by apostrophes or single quotes. This one contains a few types of bicycles. So if you ask Python to print the variable bicycles, you get this output, the list in full list form, brackets, single quotes, and all. Usually, that's not the output you want to print to your user. It's not formatted in a very pretty way, but that is what you get when you print a list. Lists are ordered collections. So you can access any element in the list by telling Python the position. We call that an index of the item desired. To access an element in a list, write the name of the list followed by the index of the item, and you put that index in square brackets. For example, to pull the first item out of our bicycles list, I tell Python to print the variable bicycles, and then I give it the index 0 in brackets. When I print in this way, Python will simply return what is stored at that index without any brackets or single quotes or the comma or anything. So this is a much cleaner way to print the items in our list. If you recall in Chapter 2, there are several things you can do to strings to make them look prettier when you are printing things. Take a look at this code. What do you think it would do? Pause the video. Think about it. What will this do? I hope you thought about it, and I hope you thought that it would produce Trek with a capital T. This is our title method, and it would capitalize the first letter of that word. Have you noticed I've been using 0 to access the first item in the list, and that might seem a little odd to you. Python thinks of the first item as position 0, not position 1. This is true of most programming languages. And the reason has to do with the way that this is converted into binary and those things that fortunately we don't have to think about, but Python does. So if your results are unexpected, it could have to do with using the wrong index number because you counted starting at 1. So notice in this grid, each item is numbered starting at 0. So it's helpful to think of these indexes as the item located at 0, the item located at 1, the item located at 2, and so on. So the item located at 6 in this example is Linsky. So to access Linsky, you would use 6 in brackets. As you're working with these lists, it may even be helpful for you to keep on maybe a piece of paper a list that is numbered starting at 0 with everything and where it is so that you know exactly what you're trying to refer to. There actually might come some moments when you don't know how long your list is, or you don't care. In those cases, you may just want to return the last item in your list. In this case, what do you think this one's going to do? Think about it. I'm asking for -1. Python is going to look at the list and find the very last item in the list, and it will print specialized. If I used an index -2, it would be Redline, -3 would be Cannondale, and so on. So I'm really just looking through the list backwards. This is what that looks like drawn out. It's a little bit confusing because Linsky on the far right side of the screen has an index of 6 or -1, while Trek on the far left side of the screen has an index of 0 or -7. You can't have -0. So when you're counting backwards, you have to start at -1, while when you are counting forwards, you have to start at 0 because 0 exists. So take a look at this. Make sure you understand the forward and reverse and how you would index these items in your list. So how do we use these? You can use an individual value in your list just like you would any other variable. For example, you can use concatenation to create a message based on a value from a list. Let's try pulling the first bicycle from the list and composing a message using that value. At line 1 here, the first black line in the code, we build a sentence using the value at bicycles index 0 and store that in the variable message along with our string. The output will be a simple sentence about the first bicycle in the list. What do you think it says? Pretty simple, right? My first bicycle was a Trek. How many characters would you need to change to get it to say, my first bicycle was a specialized? All you have to do is change that 0 to 3. So bicycles index 3 is specialized. You could also use bicycle index -1. That's also specialized. So just a little change makes a big difference. As you look at this, you may think, I don't care about expensive bicycles. This list could actually be all sorts of things. You could have a list of monsters in a game, a list of weapons that your character could use, a list of tools, a list of obstacles. These examples don't feel very game-like at this point, but these concepts really are the building blocks of games and other programs that you interact with all the time. Here's assignments for 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3. Make sure you check Canvas very carefully, make sure that they haven't changed, and make sure that you're doing exactly what Canvas asks for these assignments. But definitely do 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 before you move on to the next video.